Hey everyone, I promised to make this quick. I've been going 8 hours straight now, so I don't know how much is left in the tank. Let's talk about all the big news that you may have missed this week. That's important as well. Some crazy stuff, crazy developments. We're going to talk about all crypto, all the developments, all the transactions, all the speed, all the changes, although price didn't change much for the week. A lot of other stuff did. We'll talk about some new price targets for some assets we care about a lot. A little bit of macro stuff. And what else? Some future stuff. All the stuff we need to know. Thank you for coming. And of course, this is not financial advice. Let's talk about the week wrap first. And shout out to B-Man and Pancake Panda. So the week in crypto divided by Bitcoin. You can see here Binance down after having a great week last week. Binance hit a new all-time high last week. And then they mean revert because that's what happens. ETH beat Bitcoin. So did Sol. So did XRP, which is kind of bizarre for the week. And in terms of redness, though, it was a down week. Bitcoin fell 4.38%. ETH fell 3.1%. Sol somehow was positive for the week. And Binance down to $610, but still way higher than it was at the beginning of the year. And Toncoin was up a lot. I have a question on that for the Q&A tomorrow. If you're interested in Toncoin, I will cover it. Now, some of the big news, I covered a little bit on the Bitcoin video this morning briefly, but Saylor believes Bitcoin could get a 24% compound annual growth rate over the next 10 years. And that sounds exciting, but it's actually not. I would not be happy with 24% CAGR per year. Not the way I invest, but we'll see. But if you consider his, I guess, conservative 24% CAGR, that means Bitcoin could go do an 8.5x by the year 2034, 2033 to go to 575K. Not quite enough, but we have another asset that could do an awful lot more. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's look at this cool new chart as well. Shout out to Sanjay that got it to me. This is the ETF comparison and the number of investors and position size. This was mind-blowing for me, this data. I love data, and this was interesting. So if you look at, forget Grayscale, I'm not interested in that, but if you look at BlackRock and Fidelity, BlackRock only have 411 firms invested, and their average buy is $7 million. But Fidelity have less firms, but a higher average buy of $9 million. Super interesting. And the rest are kind of crumbs. But the point is, we are still early. This is not late. 400 firms for a company like BlackRock in a world where there's hundreds of thousands. So again, that was the big takeaway. The average buy size as well, interesting. 7 million, 9 million. These are big, big players. And the amount of retail investors we would need to match some of these buyers would be a huge number. I calculated the weekly ETF buys would be the representation of a weekly DCA from 80 million retail investors. That's how big these things are. Anyway, Michael Saylor is at it again. He will be buying next week. He issues stock at the speed of light, and they convert that to Bitcoin like within 24 hours. I'd expect him to announce sometime next week that they have bought $700 million worth of Bitcoin. So expect Bitcoin to be positive next week. I believe so. And also we have the new institutions like Metaplex in Japan. We have Semler out in Palo Alto or Sunnyvale or Santa Clara. I don't remember where they are, somewhere in California. But they're also stacking a little bit too. So again, this thing is scarce. And as Saylor said, he'll be buying the top forever, and he'll be buying it at $8 million a coin. That was the big excitement in Prague this week as well. Let's look at the layer ones, layer twos for the week. The big news is not much happened. It was pretty quiet. All layer ones and layer twos were down for TVL, total value locked. Stablecoin volume, Optimism 1. Commits, Cosmos 1. Weekly active developers, Cosmos 1. Daily active users, ETH was up 10%. That was good to see because ETH have been a bit of a laggard for a while. And daily transactions, Solana up 18% because Solana released version 18 and it's way faster. It's twice as fast as the previous version. And now more people are getting more transactions done. We'll talk about that in a minute too. Now, ETH news for the ETH lovers out there. You can see it's becoming very, very, very quickly an institutional game. This is the institutional ETH holding that's happening right now. And there is some buying happening. And it was the second highest on record yesterday, 298,000 ETH. That record daily buying was last September 11th, 317,000 ETH. So again, somebody is stacking Ethereum ahead of the ETH ETF. Despite that, price didn't do much, but it did beat Bitcoin, probably because of these perma holders inflowing into the space. Shout out to Mert as well. Thank you, Sam Dragon, for coming. I'm going to turn up my brightness so I can read properly. Cern Dragon. And thank you as well, Coin Dog. And of course, Tim Paul. Appreciate you all. Mert was on Twitter, and he said that after version 1.18, I called it version 18, Solana is at almost 2,000 true transactions per second. And this is with a bunch of known shortcomings in the transaction pipeline. And Mert's optimistic guess is they'll break 10,000 transactions by the new year. That is 10,000 true transactions per second by the end of the year in 6 months. That'll be very, very impressive. Now, the other stuff that's happening on Solana, and again, I talk about the assets that have the most activity, the most stuff going on. In this case, it's all Solana, because that's where all the transactions happen. That's where all the users are, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we follow it. Solana is looking to push out the middleman on payments. This is from Solana Floor. They're proposing that merchants can eliminate the middleman by using Solana Pay on their Shopify stores via Helio Pay. Again, when you talk about crypto, probably, in my opinion, the biggest use case is payments. Absolutely huge. And there's tons of legacy crypto players that are around there that base everything around payments, you know, the Stellar, Lumens, and the XRPs, etc. Wonder, will Solana be able to change the game? And when you talk about cutting out the middleman, cutting out the merchant, etc., you are saving 3% on your sale. And that can be huge to a retailer that lives on very thin margins. If anybody here in the audience runs a restaurant or a retailer or whatever else, you know how much 3% means to you. And that's why you see many restaurants now charging extra if you use a credit card. And Jito earned 72,000 Sol in tips last week. One dApp on the network in just tips to accelerate a transaction. Crazy. What's happening with Jito? And in full disclosure, I own Jito as part of my Sol alt position. This is what's happening with Jito. Jito here is in purple. And you can see it is exploding now to 11 million staked Sol out of nowhere. October 2022, it had 0. Now it has 11 million. And it's growing very fast, far faster than anything else out there. So that is very interesting. And we have, I think, Helios is there, a little orange. Can't even see it yet, but soon you will be able to. So that's what's happening with Jito. Also, Jupiter continues to be beyond the black hole. This is all the aggregator information, you know, 1inch Network, Kyber Swap, etc. All these other players, Ox Aggregator. Jupiter handles 72%. That is beyond dominance across all chains. As I always say, winner takes most, and it was very clear to me because I was looking for a Jupiter solution from my early days in crypto, and it didn't really arrive until late last year. So well done. Thank you, Dr. Sauce, for coming too. Raydium, which is a big feeder, it's aggregated by Jupiter, smokes Uniswap for the first time in 24-hour volume. Raydium protocol becomes the #1 DEX. Again, Uniswap's based in Ethereum, and that is big. Uniswap has been around for a long time, and this is just one DEX on Solana. Now beats Uniswap. We were excited a few months back when Jupiter beat Uniswap for the first time. Now individual DEXs on Solana are beating Uniswap. I hope. Get that. Let's talk about stocks for a second. A lot of cool news there. It was a big week for AI. And when you look at the top companies that are growing, they're all AI based, as I've been saying since 2022. AI, crypto, that's where it's at. Microsoft up big for the week. Apple up 7%, which is a monstrous amount. NVIDIA up about 6% too. Post-split, they had a 10-for-1 split on Monday, and they're up 9% for the week. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Meta is up, etc. And by the way, the news between, well, we'll talk about it in a minute too. Microsoft and Apple. We'll get to that. I forgot I had a slide on that. Also, the big news, big news, at least for me and people that really own disruption and get it, is the Tesla vote. Tesla revealed this morning that Elon Musk's pay package was approved by 72% of shareholders, which is basically the same as the amount in 2018. Whereas the judge said the shareholders were misled. They didn't know what they were doing. Anyway, it's ridiculous. The judge doesn't have a leg to stand on. Corruptness. We have to eliminate corruptness from the world as quickly as possible. And Texas reincorporation. The vote to move to Texas, 63%, which basically excluded... It included all non-votes too, which is about 10 or 15 or 20% of the actual total amount of votes, which is crazy. People thought this would never pass. It passed. The revolution is happening. The pendulum is swinging in the other direction against, well, I should say, towards things that are proper and good. And of course, Elon Musk having fun, sending this cake to Delaware as a parting gift. And by the way, I know lots of companies that are looking to leave Delaware as well. People say it's a nothing burger for Delaware. No. New companies that are thinking about where they incorporate. They are looking at places like Nevada and Texas. They are not looking at Delaware anymore. And those companies that are there, where they have executives that have stock-based compensation plans, they're out. They don't want their future and their pay to be in the hands of some activist judge. So, we'll see. Speaking of Tesla as well, other good news, the Model 2, which they just released, a new refresh Model 2, which is by far the best bang for the buck vehicle on the planet, as voted by top vehicle analysts. You name them, all the top people are blown away by how good this car is for the money. It's currently ranked number 10 in the world. I forecast it'll join the Model Y as being number 1 or top 3 within 1 or 2 years. So watch this space. Everything is changing very, very quickly in the EV space. And no, EVs are not dead. People say they are. But this is the last gasp of the ICE and the hybrid. In 3 to 5 years, game over. Totally, for sure. Now, this was the most mind-blowing thing from the actual shareholder meeting. And Elon came out and said, it is conceivable that Tesla achieves a $30 trillion market cap just based on Optimus and Autonomy alone. Optimus will probably be 25 trillion and FSD 5 trillion. And Elon said he agrees with Cathie Wood's ARC model for 8 trillion market cap by 2029, which is based on robotaxi. Just vehicle autonomy, not megapacks and not robots. Now, if we do get to a $30 trillion market cap, considering there's about 3 billion shares outstanding, it's bonkers thing about it. It's a $10,000 share price. Okay. If you take, say, $10,000 from where it is today, that's like, call it a 67x, something like that. And it's funny because if you take, just thinking of numbers here quietly in my little head, say it's a 67x to get to, add ARC's price with the 25 trillion, that would take us to, calculating right now. Yeah, so that would be 30 trillion, 10,000 a share. That's a 67x, the current price. But if you look at Bitcoin, $67,000 is the price now. You multiply that by 67x. That means if Elon is right, okay, that would be a 67x on the stock price from today. We don't know when it'll happen. Is it going to be 2030, 2032, 2035? I don't know. But 67x on an asset is huge. But for Bitcoin to match that, it would have to go to $4.49 million. And that's interesting. The question is, which gets to that level first? Okay, that is Tesla to $10,000 a share or Bitcoin to 4.49 million. That's why I own both, by the way. They'll both do very well. Now, there's also some autonomy. Sorry about that little brain fart. I'm trying to calculate the numbers in my head as I'm talking live. Tesla is now testing autonomy in China. Shanghai is allowing 10 Tesla vehicles to carry out tests of the company's most advanced autonomous driving software to pave the way for its rollout in China. And yes, it's pretty clear the robotaxi will be launched very close to 8.8 in China. That's their plan. Okay, so even if it's a little later in the US, it doesn't matter. China is already a bigger market. And speaking of disruption, which is what this channel is all about, this is a cool slide again I got from Sanjay. Banks don't like Bitcoin. Actually, that changed because Bank of America did a pivot yesterday. But anyway, banks don't like Bitcoin. Taxis don't like Uber. Hotels don't like Airbnb. Bookstores don't like Amazon. Cinemas don't like Netflix. And oil companies, etc., don't like Tesla. Innovation and disruption is not liked. It is hated. As I talk about the most hated assets. By the way, every single one of these names, there has been a point in my life where I've owned them all. Some I still own too. BTC Maxi Mike, thank you for coming. Now, getting back to the disruption news, this is the whole Apple and Microsoft piece. One fell swoop. It's better to be late and right than early and wrong. I would argue with that. I think if you don't take chances, you fall behind. And there's no doubt Apple is behind. They had a misstep with their EV. The goggles are silly. And the only other thing they've done is made the iPhone a different color and a little bit faster. But now, working with Microsoft, I never thought I'd see the day where this is happening. But it's like a white flag. I give up. Can't do it on my own. So this partnership is very bizarre. And both Microsoft and Apple said they're probably not going to make any money from it. So why do it? They're just doing it to survive. And yet the stock pumped a lot. So that's the market news. Speaking of markets and zombies, as you know, I love this thing called the zombie coefficient. And this is the shocking statistic of the day. 42% of US small cap companies are unprofitable. And that is the most since 2020 pandemic, when 53% of small caps were losing money. And at the same time, only 10% of the S&P 500 firms and 20% of mid-caps are unprofitable. And by comparison, during the 2008 financial crisis, 46% of small cap companies were unprofitable compared to 29% of the S&P 500. And this helps explain why the Russell 2000 has not achieved any all-time high for over 3 years. And that's the longest streak since 2011. The index is now trading 21% below its peak, and elevated interest rates are smashing small caps, and they are struggling. So this is a big problem. This is kind of the small business, etc. And these small caps are a big part of the backbone of the economy. And when they are weak, it means there's a bigger problem, and high interest rates are smashing them. That's just a fact of life, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, by the way, the other point of this is be in the big caps, they do better. They're bigger, better, stronger, but be in the winning big caps, like some of the names we just mentioned too. And a shout out to Javier Milei. He took his chainsaw to the Argentinian government. This guy, he is the most radical leader on the planet. He fired 5,000 government employees. He eliminated 380,000 government regulations, 12 of 21 cabinet posts. He opened up the oil industry and shut down the Ministry of DEI, which is kind of interesting. And yes, some people didn't like this, but he's doing this because Argentina had a problem, has a problem, and has had a problem for a very long time. Check this scorecard. Only after a few weeks. This is unbelievable. Okay? Main man Milei, he has now brought Argentina's inflation rate down to its lowest level in a very long time, dropping for the fifth consecutive month to 4.2% amid an austerity drive by President Milei. And again, the annual inflation rate has fallen from 133% in December to where it is right now. Not bad at all. So this could be the playbook for new government leaders of the world to have smaller governments, maybe, and be pro-innovation and less regulation, Very, very important. And final piece of news, this is from Marty Party, there is a bank run on rubles in Russia, and it is a big problem. I think the Russian stock market as well had its worst day in a very long time. It was kind of like their Black Friday. So be careful out there if you have exposure in Russian rubles or Russian stocks. Stay away. Quick recap for the week. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all for coming, everybody. Appreciate you all making it. And I'll see you all tomorrow for the Q&A. I go back to working that right now. Thanks, everybody. Thank you as well to TND Tesla and Sean Donnelly for coming again twice. 2 for 2. Hope you enjoyed the 2 for today. See you all later. Bye-bye.